I'm Katie Couric. Tonight, the largest settlement ever in the clergy sex abuse scandal. The Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Los Angeles will pay 2/3 of $1 billion, but victims say it hardly eases their pain.
I can't take that check and cash it someplace where they make me 10 years old again.
Also tonight, American workers and substance abuse. More than 13 million of them are hooked. A CBS News investigation, why so many seniors are angry about those new private Medicare plans. And it attracts flocks of hungry diners looking for cheap eats. But this early bird special is about to be canceled.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Hello, everyone. It's the biggest scandal ever for the Roman Catholic Church in this country, the abuse of children by priests in diocese after diocese. Today, the biggest settlement yet. A judge in Los Angeles approved a deal in which the archdiocese there will pay more than 500 victims, a total of $660 million. That's more than 6 times as much as any other diocese has paid. We begin our coverage tonight with Sandra Hughes, who's in Los Angeles.
After years of trying to get the Los Angeles Archdiocese to admit that hundreds of children were sexually abused by priests, today victims finally had their day in court as a massive settlement was announced.
It's their courage and their commitment that made this possible.
Some victims who asked not to be photographed during the court hearing sobbed uncontrollably.
It is our deep regret that this took so long.
The $660 million that churches agreed to pay will settle civil cases by 508 victims. Each will be paid more than $1 million. The LA Archdiocese has now paid a total of $764 million to settle sex abuse cases. Steve Sanchez's case was supposed to start in court today. He says he was abused starting at the age of 10 by a priest who is now dead.
Cardinal Mahoney got off cheap today, you know. $660 million. He was supposed to take the stand in our case. He bought himself out of the witness stand.
Cardinal Roger Mahoney, long accused of a cover-up, sat quietly in the courtroom today. Yesterday, he delivered this apology.
I apologize to anyone who has been offended, who has been abused in the Catholic Church by priests, by deacons, religious men and women, or lay people in the church.
I believe he's sorry, but he's sorry he was caught.
What church officials knew about the predator priests and when they knew it remains sealed in personnel files. Files the Archdiocese will surrender but must be reviewed in court before they are made public. Some may never be released.
That's why many say the pain may never cease.
The pain is still inside of me.
For others,
I hope we will find some peace.
And the beginning of healing. Sandra Hughes, CBS News, Los Angeles.
In addition to the Los Angeles settlement, the Diocese of Orange, California paid out $100 million to settle claims of clergy abuse. Covington, Kentucky, $84 million. Portland, Oregon, $52 million. And the Archdiocese of Boston paid $84 million. Since 1950, sex abuse settlements have cost the Catholic Church in this country more than $2 billion. And there are more to come. In the Diocese of San Diego, 150 cases of alleged clergy abuse are pending. And at least 4 states may eliminate the statute of limitations, which would allow more alleged victims to sue the church. Attorney Mitchell Garabedian has represented hundreds of victims of clergy abuse, primarily in Boston, since 1994. Mr. Garabedian, does the settlement like the one we saw in Los Angeles really give victims any sense of satisfaction?
Well, it's a resounding victory for the victims in the sense of they don't have to carry around this guilt any longer. The church, the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, has now admitted it's done wrong. The money is a symbol. They really want some sort of guilt taken off their shoulders. They want the pain reduced. They want to receive some sort of closure in their lives. It's very difficult for the victims.
In fact, I know you talked with some of your clients today. How did they react to what happened in Los Angeles?
Well, it was like reopening a wound. Once again, they revisited their own situations. They were sexually abused here in Boston and throughout the country, and they felt the pain, and they tried to deal with that pain.
And what has been done within the Catholic Church to prevent future cases of abuse and future cover-ups?
I don't know what they're doing. I'm not quite sure. They say they're taking steps. They say they're educating the priests, but I don't know. Only time will tell, unfortunately. You have an entity that is purportedly the most moral institution in the world acting the most immorally, and they got caught. And now they're being responsible for educating themselves. Something is wrong here. Something is not working here, and I'm looking at all of this with a skeptical eye.
Mitchell Garabedian in Boston, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Turning now to presidential politics, raising money is the name of the game, and the Democrats are well ahead in the race for campaign cash. In the past 3 months, they raised $80 million, about $30 million more than the Republicans. But with only about $1.5 million left in his war chest, no candidate is struggling more these days than John McCain. As Jim Axelrod reports, the wheels are really coming off his campaign.
John McCain's Straight Talk Express is off the road because his campaign, nearly out of cash, can't afford the $103,000 plus it cost to keep the bus running last quarter. The campaign is spinning hard, even while several more top aides bailed out today.
We're going to be fine. Look, there's ups and downs, and, you know, that's the way the life and politics are, and I'm very confident we will do very well, particularly around the month of September. Mark my words.
But it's getting difficult to see how he turns his campaign around.
If anyone can do it, it's John McCain, but it is very difficult to put back together the bricks and mortar that make up a national presidential effort.
So far, when it comes to raising money, it's the Democrats who are in the fast lane. Barack Obama has $34 million in the bank. Hillary Clinton, $33 million, an unprecedented amount of money. Compare that to this time 4 years ago, when $10.8 million made John Kerry the top Democrat. And more than ever, the money's donated online.
What it says is that ordinary people have more of a say than they've ever had, and ordinary people are fed up with the Republicans.
On the Republican side, Rudy Giuliani has the most cash on hand, but his $18 million is a little more than half of not one, but two Democratic candidates.
Nobody on the Republican side has had the galvanizing effect of either an Obama as an insurgent or a Clinton as a really good, strong candidate that they want to get behind.
But it's not just how much the candidates are raising, it's how much earlier they're raising it. Half the country will vote by next February 5th. Candidates can't afford to wait, even if they can't afford much else. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, the White House.
Turning to the Middle East now, President Bush today announced plans to send Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas $190 million in aid. Mr. Bush also wants to restart peace talks by holding a regional conference in the fall. The Abbas government controls only the West Bank after losing Gaza to the rival Palestinian group, Hamas. In Iraq today, a series of devastating attacks in the northern city of Kirkuk, a suicide truck bombing and two smaller car bombs killed at least 80 people and wounded more than 180 others. Iraq's government claims many of the militants who stage attacks like the one in Kirkuk are coming from other countries. From Baghdad, here's Alan Pizzi.
The carnage from the bombs was horrendous, even by Iraqi standards. Passengers trapped inside a bus burned to death. More than 4,000 Iraqi civilians have died in suicide attacks in the past 6 months. And Saudi Arabia bears much of the blame, according to Iraqi National Security Advisor Mofak al-Rubai.
Most of the foreign terrorists who are blowing themselves up in this country are coming from Saudi Arabia.
The Iraqis and the U.S. military here claim 60 to 80 terrorist recruits a month enter Iraq, half of them from Saudi Arabia. They travel to the Syrian capital Damascus, then cross this long and porous border into Iraq. Rubai said he asked the Saudi government to crack down harder on would-be jihadists and to restrict movement of funds to Sunni extremist factions, especially those linked with al-Qaeda.
We would love to have our American allies put more pressure and more convincing on the Saudi government.
One of Iraq's most hardline Sunni leaders, Harith al-Dari, visited the kingdom last month, where Rabai claimed he was publicly praised by King Abdullah as a mujahideen or holy warrior. The Saudi connection puts Washington in an awkward spot because the kingdom is a favored ally in the region. Washington has known about the problem for years, a regional analyst said. That there has been no action is an indication of the limited influence the U.S. has over the Saudis. But the fact that both the Iraqis and American military officials are now pointing fingers may be a sign that carnage has overcome diplomatic niceties. Alan Pizzi, CBS News, Baghdad.
In Japan, a very strong earthquake today was followed by an equally strong aftershock. They both measured 6.8 and were centered off the western coast. At least 8 people were killed, 900 others hurt. The quake flattened hundreds of homes and caused a fire at the world's most powerful nuclear plant. About 300 gallons of radioactive water leaked into the Sea of Japan, but authorities insist that leak poses no danger. There's much more CBS News ahead, including a new law that even has the bird squawking. And new evidence that millions of Americans holding down jobs are also hooked on drugs and alcohol. Chances are pretty good someone you work with has a serious drug or alcohol problem. A government survey out today says 13.5 million full-time workers in America admit they're heavy drinkers or abuse illegal drugs. Nancy Cordes has more.
Alcohol or drugs and heavy equipment don't mix. But the new government study finds many substance abusers work in fields where they have high potential to harm themselves and others. Among those surveyed, construction workers and miners were most likely to admit heavy alcohol use, nearly 2 in 10 workers.
Their decision, their inaction, their mistakes could cost you money, could cost a life. Any number of things could happen if someone's impaired.
The field with the highest rate of illicit drug use, the high turnover food service sector. Again, nearly 2 in 10 workers.
You really want to intervene as early as possible. You want people to admit that they have a problem as openly as they can. And you want people to get some treatment and assistance to come back and be productive at the end.
Sodexo, the nation's largest provider of food service workers, now offers its employees free anonymous sessions with a trained substance abuse professional, whether they have health insurance or not.
I can go to that employee and say, something's not right. If you're not comfortable talking to me about that problem, would you please call this number?
Your bosses are not immune. 8% of the CEOs surveyed admitted to abusing alcohol.
Nearly a third of all full-time workers say they are subjected to random drug testing. The numbers are far higher in fields where workers spend time behind the wheel: transportation, law enforcement, and firefighting.
Perhaps not surprisingly, workers in those fields have the lowest rates of substance abuse, along with teachers and librarians. Nancy Cordes, CBS News, Washington.
Meanwhile, food and at least one cancer drug may mix. In a study released today, researchers found a breast cancer drug that's supposed to be taken on an empty stomach is much more effective when taken after a full meal. It's not clear if other cancer drugs work the same way. Coming up next, CBS News investigates those new private Medicare plans. A lot of confusion for seniors, big profits for insurance companies. Some important news tonight for the 43 million Americans on Medicare, and especially the 20% who get their coverage through one of the new private plans. A CBS News investigation finds these plans are turning out to be confusing for a lot of seniors and a real windfall for the insurance industry at the expense of taxpayers. Here's our chief investigative correspondent, Armin Katayan.
It was the winter of 2003 when Congress, in the dead of night, overhauled Medicare.
This prescription drug benefit is a good deal for all seniors.
But buried inside the bill was another deal, one a CBS News investigation has discovered was not necessarily a good deal for seniors. It was called Medicare Advantage, and it put a large part of a government-run program, Medicare, into the hands of private insurance companies. The goal, provide seniors with more benefits, like vision and dental care, and control rising costs. But today, for seniors like Aaron Cohen, it's become Medicare Disadvantage.
I'd rather go back to the old-fashioned Medicare.
The 86-year-old Cohen, who lives in Connecticut, says he switched to a private Medicare Advantage plan only after a salesman assured him he would be completely covered while staying in Florida. But after breaking his leg in that state, Cohen began to believe he had been sold a bill of goods.
There was something radically wrong. They wouldn't give me any home therapy, claiming that it wasn't covered.
But that's only part of the problem. With traditional Medicare, there's one plan for everyone, everywhere. Private Medicare Advantage offers as many as 50 different plans, causing untold confusion over coverage, premiums, copays, provider networks.
These insurance benefit packages are very complicated. Almost nobody, without really technical sophistication, can figure out what exactly they're buying.
You read that column? Bob Hayes runs the Medicare Rights Center.
This is the Medicare Rights Center.
Every year, his staff fields thousands of calls from seniors scared to death. They've made the wrong choice. Not only are those private plans more confusing, they are more expensive to taxpayers. In fact, 3 independent reports found private insurance companies are paid, on average, 12% more than what it costs the federal government to run Medicare. In some cases, 50% more. The head of Medicare insists private plans give you more for your money.
I think that there is a lot more that we could do in regular Medicare that we aren't doing currently, that some of the Medicare Advantage plans are able to do because of how the payment structure works.
But how much of that money is going back into the pockets of the insurance companies?
Well, it's required by law. 25% goes back to the federal treasury, 75% goes back to the beneficiary. So
the insurance companies are doing this, what, out of their good kindness of their hearts?
There would be, I'm sure, some small amount to administer the additional benefits.
But we found that's not always the case. This independent report found when it comes to the fastest growing plans, known as private fee-for-service, half of that extra money goes back to the insurance companies. All these private Medicare plans are expected to cost taxpayers an additional $54 billion over the next 5 years.
Taxpayers are losing, people with Medicare are losing, and the structure of Medicare as a national treasure that we need to rely on moving forward is being undermined.
So much so, key congressional Democrats now want to cut payments to private plans. The insurance industry is fighting back with a direct mail campaign urging seniors to contact their representatives. Ironically, Aaron Cohen got one of those letters. On the back, his very personal feelings about Medicare Advantage. Armin Katayan, CBS News, West Haven, Connecticut.
In Denver today, security guards shot and killed a man who was armed with a gun outside the governor's office in the Capitol building. A spokesman for Governor Bill Ritter says the man walked into the building, which has no metal detectors, and declared, "I am the emperor and I'm here to take over state government." The governor wasn't hurt. The president of Eastern Michigan University and 2 other school officials have been fired following a murder cover-up on campus. 22-year-old Laura Dickinson was raped and killed in her dorm room last December, but university officials said there were no signs of foul play, despite evidence to the contrary. Dickinson's family and fellow students didn't find out the truth until 10 weeks later, when a fellow student was arrested for her murder. Coming up next, why doing this is about to become illegal. Going to the park and feeding the birds, for some people, it's one of life's little pleasures. But just because Polly wants a cracker, does that mean we should give her one? Here's John Blackstone.
As tourist attractions go, San Francisco's wild parrots can be frustratingly unpredictable. The 200 birds can often be seen swooping near Telegraph Hill. But there is only one place where they show up like clockwork. At 5:30 every afternoon, they return to a small park surrounded by high-rises, where for the past couple of years, outstretched hands have offered sunflower seeds.
This is awesome.
Here, in the midst of the urban jungle, 2 species mingle and share. In exchange for a little food, the parrots bring a lot of happiness.
I was having a bad day and I wanted to talk to the parrot.
So this is therapy, is it?
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
There's no doubt the parrots are loved, but is feeding them loving them too much, robbing them of the ability to survive on their own? One bird lover especially disturbed is Mark Bittner. His book and documentary film, The Wild Parrots of Telegraph Hill, made the birds famous in the first place. Well, he once fed the birds. He says now the flock is thriving and should not depend on humans.
My whole thing is to keep them wild, not to make them into like a circus act.
Bittner's worries reached City Hall. So starting today, parrot feeding in San Francisco is banned. We visited when feeding was still legal and found plenty of ruffled feathers.
I think law enforcement has better things to do with their time than to be policing a bunch of people trying to feed some birds.
When the new law takes effect, this could mean a misdemeanor charge and a $100 fine. So if the cops show up, it could be the bird feeders who take flight. The city, it seems, is determined to bite the hands that feed the parrots. John Blackstone, CBS News, San Francisco.
And that's the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Katie Couric. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.